talk some Buccaneers football with our guy TJ Rives, who has as many hats as I have shoes.
I saw those earlier when I was sliding by on social media. And do you know that I am a Memphis guy? I don't know
Tigers
how much
all
you
the
know
way.
that I'm a Memphis guy. All right, so
I
born and
love
bred
it.
in Memphis. Yesterday, am I correct, would have been Elvis's 90th birthday. And
Yes.
Jay Recher with Don't Mess With My Blue Suede Shoes. Outstanding, brother.
My grandma, huge
You
Elvis
gotta
fan. I went to Graceland years ago.
Yes.
Graceland was one of the greatest experiences ever. Putting the headset on, just walking around. Like, people don't realize the impact of Elvis. Like, they joke around about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to Graceland and you just watch some of these things and you realize how popular he was, like, people don't, if people have never been there, it's one of those things. And I get it. Some people say, I'll go 10 times and it won't be enough. Some people say, I'll go one time and one time is enough. Fine. But it's one of those landmarks in the U.S. that you got to go to at least once to understand a pop culture icon like that.
And you talk about basically revolutionized music. He and the Beatles. I know we're going way back and neither one of us was alive really for this to happen. But rock and roll as we know it is really Elvis and the Beatles. It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's so woven into the Memphis culture, etc. So wild. I saw your blue shoes, and I'm thinking immediately about the King, Elvis.
The King, man.
That.
Yeah. Well, I gotta make sure that my hips are okay when I walk to Emily today because it's gonna be cold, and I gotta make sure that I'm okay. I'm not gonna be doing any dancing at media dining. That's
exactly.
For sure. Excited is the understatement for Sunday night playoff football, and I know I'm speaking to the choir here. Like, to be able to see this team get back to the postseason, 5th straight year, 4th straight division crown. There's a level of excitement here because this team with Baker Mayfield at the helm, there's just and you were there, TJ, you were in the locker room after the game. There was a different good feeling, a vibe about this team. It's not always tangible, but man, I think when it comes to headspace, when it comes to their motivation and just their good feeling, I don't know if it could be any better right now for the Bucs heading into Sunday night.
You make an excellent point. You have a veteran-laden team, and I keep preaching this, talking about preaching to the choir, that you cannot replace what Mike Evans and Tristan Wirfs and Vita Vea and Levante David and Antoine Winfield and, if healthy, Jamel Dean have already done and been through, and that's win a Super Bowl. When you have that as part of your culture, the rest kind of takes care of itself on the veterans policing their position group or the meeting room and or the practice field and the preparation. It doesn't just have to be Todd Bowles and his staff. These guys know what it takes. And I will now include Baker Mayfield in that group as a leader because he had won a playoff game in Cleveland. And I keep joking, if you win a playoff game in Cleveland, that's like winning 3 playoff games. Right. He had won one before and obviously had played at the highest level in college in the college football playoff. And this dude is a leader and means serious business. And look, it's not only him. I mean, for the likes of Luke Gedeke or Cade Otton or Yaya Diaby now, who's newer, or Rashad White, Anthony Nelson. I'm going down the list of guys. I'm going to probably leave somebody out. A lot of those guys played in the playoffs the last couple of years, at least last year or the last couple of years. You have got a playoff veteran-laden team for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Even though it's a young team, they've got some playoff experience, and I think that bodes very well for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, it's a great point. Usually that doesn't go hand in hand with a younger team being a playoff veteran team, but you have that good mix. And I think we see that through every team, right? You saw it when this team won the Super Bowl years ago. It was like, yeah, they did have Brady and the vets, but also you saw Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. being arguably 2 of the better players at their position in just their rookie season. I wanted to ask you about Mike Evans and getting that record and what that means as far as the organization as a whole. Because I saw something yesterday on NFL, Inside the NFL, I think it was, and Ryan Clark and some of these other guys, and they're kind of, I can't believe Todd did that, and I wouldn't have let Mike do this. And I feel like at times, like, we got to stop with the, like, the sanctity of the game. Like, sometimes when you have the ability to do so, it's not a terrible thing to reward good people that consistently do fantastic things on and off the field. And I thought it was an opportunity on Sunday. The Buccaneers and Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen took that situation and made everybody happy. I know what the negative could have been, but if you worry about getting hit by a car every single time you try to cross the street, you're going to be stuck on the sidewalk, TJ.
Good point that you make there on that. And for the haters, please. I mean, they got to fill up the hours. I realize the jabronis, to use your wrestling world term, the jabronis have got to fill up the hours with something to debate. But you just said it. He is a phenomenal individual. He, his wife, their family, their foundation, and good things, if not great things, should be happening to great people. And just to take you back to that moment, again, I am in a privileged position. I realize this and understand this, to be down there on the field for all of these Buccaneer games for the last 20 years. I cannot recollect in the regular season. We're not talking about the postseason or a Super Bowl. It's a whole different level. And we're going to talk more about the playoff game with the Commanders in a few moments. But in a regular season setting where you had to win the game, you're trying to win the division to make the playoffs, and you get a chance at something like that, where he's going to be on a list of two. It's Jerry Rice and him, and you get the one more opportunity to go out there and close the game out. You're not trying to throw a bomb to score another needless touchdown. You know, this is not Spurrier in the early 90s. I'm already up by 30. Let's make it 37 or make it 44 at the end of a game. This is, we're trying to get him the record that he richly deserves with how hard he worked to get back, how high a level he's played at the last 4 or 5 games to get close to the record. And he was right there on the final drive. And the Saints, he even said this to me on Buccaneers radio, and I don't know how much he elaborated about this part in the press conference that you were around right after that the Saints were down there in the red zone going, don't let Evans get it. They're saying this to each other. They're yelling it to each other. It's going to 13, cover 13, double 13. This is the stuff they were saying at the end of the game. So they're clearly trying to stop the record. So it was still a competitive situation. And great job by Liam Cohen to dial up a safe throw, because I've seen the TV reaction where they have the cutaway of Liam Cohen standing over there with his play card with Todd Bowles right after they stopped him. And I'm sure part of that was, Coach, I've got a safe, low-risk play. We're going to get him the ball and see if we can't get him the record. And Todd Bowles went along with it. And bravo that they were able to pull this off. And at field level, what a special moment. Unreal. Look at how his team reacted. Forget about anything else. Look at his teammates and how much it meant to them for him to have gotten that record and for them to be part of it. What a moment. We're going to talk about that moment 10 years from now. I have said since it happened in 2002, we would be talking about Rondé Barber's interception to close down Veterans Stadium 25 years later. Guess what? We're getting on to about 25 years later. We're still talking about it. We're going to talk about that Mike Evans moment 10 years from now. And we may still be talking about it 25 years from now. What a moment.
We'll certainly be talking about it when he gets that gold jacket and gets enshrined in the Hall of Fame as well, because we know that is just a foregone conclusion, that's for sure. I want to ask you about Todd Bowles, because you talk to him every game. I, going into his tenure with the Buccaneers, was a little apprehensive because half of my family are Jets fans, and I saw how it ended there. And I look at this situation now, and it just seems like even though the Buccaneers making the playoffs again, there's still some segment of the fan base that looks at it and has that they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I just keep thinking to myself, there's such a misunderstanding when it comes to Todd Bowles, and they don't play well. I wish he was more fiery. Okay, well, to me, I look at a team, if they're struggling and their coach is going crazy, I look at it like, I don't trust that guy. He is not calm. He is not under control. I want a guy that's under control amongst the madness, not a guy that's freaking out. But as far as kind of like the intangibles, outside of the numbers, outside of the points, what is some of the characteristics that you see, because you do have that privileged position, that exemplifies the type of man, exemplifies the type of coach that Todd Bowles is to to his players, that gives him the respect that he has earned over the years?
Very valid question. And look, this has been a hot button topic really for the last 2 seasons. And here's what I submit. Look at how this team responded at the end of last season with a first-year quarterback in Baker Mayfield in the mix and his defense, and how many big games they won down the stretch of the season at Atlanta, at Green Bay, blew out Jacksonville at home to make the playoffs, win the division, and beat the Eagles in the playoff game. Now you fast forward back around to this year, and going into that bye week, I understand the vitriol. People saw the wins early in the year at Detroit and over Philadelphia and had aspirations that this was going to be an 11 or 12 win team. Well, it got injured, and it was playing a very tough part of the schedule in October, as you know, with Baltimore and Kansas City and San Francisco and Atlanta on 4 days rest or lack of rest on a Thursday night after playing the Eagles. It was not an easy stretch of the schedule. So I was confident to a degree, but I'm curious, how are they going to respond in that Giants game? Because the Giants were off a bye week just like the Bucs were. You go back and watch the Buccaneers dump truck the Giants in the first half when they had Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets ready to go, and all their fans ready to roar for him. And the Buccaneers beat the crap out of the Giants in the first half to get up 23-0. That said something. And as this has progressed, dramatic win in Carolina, impressive win. I mean, how about the win in Los Angeles, kids? If you don't think this team's playing hard and wanting to play for Todd Bowles and that his schemes on defense and Liam Cohen's scheme on the offense aren't effective, look at the second half of the Chargers game. They're good, and the Bucs destroyed them in the second half in L.A. So it just says something about his team responding, as now 2 years in a row in December and early January. The stat is, on the Jay Recher podcast, the Buccaneers are 10-2. 10-2, hello, to close out December and January, the last 2 years in the regular season. That matches the L.A. Rams as the only other team with that good of a record. Better than the Chiefs, better than the Philadelphia Eagles, better than the Lions the last 2 years. You can say what you want about resting starters at the end of a season because you've already clinched home field. But 10-2 is 10-2. Does he do everything perfectly with game management? No. Are there several coaches of playoff teams that don't do everything well with game management, timeouts, situations, etc.? Yeah, there are. And this team keeps winning when it matters, Jay Recher.
Yeah, Tom Coughlin has 2 Super Bowls, and he was one of the worst when it came to that kind of
Sirianni is the same thing in Philadelphia.
Tomlin has trouble with this timeout.
There are people that are on Mike Tomlin exactly about this. Yeah,
it's crazy. I want to ask you about the running attack with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. I mean, Bucky. You look at Rashad's number; they're not terrible, but it's just what Bucky's been able to do as a rookie. Whether it's catching the ball in the backfield, whether it's running. I mean, most yards after contact, I think I saw on average today. But I want to ask you about Rachaad, what kind of impact that he could still make? Because I think we know what Bucky can do. But Rachaad, I think he's got the mental fortitude to to kind of like what you said, put last week behind him, get forward to this week, play a part in the game, whatever it is, probably picking up the blitzes, probably catching the ball out of the backfield. But your thoughts on Rachaad, what has happened in that running game and what he can do this weekend?
You're going to need them both, and you needed them both down the stretch of the season at different times. And I know he did not get I don't believe he got a second touch. I don't think after he got the touch on the run play that got called back because of a penalty. It wasn't an official play, as it turned out. As far as Bucky Irving, I mean, what an explosive player. What a find by Jason Light and his staff in the mid-rounds. I mean, does that guy look like a mid-round draft pick? He looks like a first-round pick with the way that he's played in terms of value. And at field level, you just can't appreciate the explosive first step and the vision that the young man has. And you just hope you can keep him healthy. I know he got banged up at the end of the year, and you had to go back to Rachaad White carrying the ball. He did it well at times and catching the ball out of the backfield. They like them both. White is bigger. White is a better pass blocker. He's a better route runner. Let's see if they don't get them both involved a little more against the Commanders. But if it's Bucky most of the time, you got to ride the hot hand too. But Jay, he is a fun player at field level to watch him change direction. And that first step is quicker than almost everybody else's first 2 steps. That's why you see him having the success, cutting back, cutting through holes, etc. He's just explosive with that first step, like few are right now in the NFL that are running the football.
Yeah, just the contributions that we've gotten from the rookie class this year with Graham Barton and McMillan and with Devin Culp the last couple of weeks and Bucky Irving. Like, I mean, you want to talk about narrative changing, right?
Yeah.
Jason Light has just etched his name as one of the best general managers in all of sports over the last couple of seasons, just from what he's been able to do and the way that these guys have been able to have impact so early on in their career. And we see in sports where even, especially in the NFL stands for not for long, and it's not just the players, coaches, GMs in 1 year, 2 years. Jason Light drafted Roberto Aguayo. Well, people forget he also drafted Matt Gay, right? So it's like,
Correct.
but he also is able to find a guy like Chase McLaughlin, who's been
That's right.
automatic the last couple of years. So to see Jason Light in the last couple of seasons really step forward and make an impact, and you look at how many guys on this team that were drafted by the Buccaneers, I mean, it says a lot about the growth of this organization as a whole.
No doubt. And you can even go back to what was in place that enticed Tom Brady, TB12, to want to come here. He saw the roster that had Godwin and Evans draft picks, that had the likes of Levante David on the defense. And obviously, it's just continued from Cade Otton to Yaya Diaby to Rashad White, who we were talking about, Cody Mauch and Luke Gedeke on the offensive line. I mean, just on and on down the list where you have replenished through the draft, even in the later rounds. And I'm glad you brought up McMillan. My Lord, has he come on at the end of the season when you absolutely had to have it. The horrible injury to Godwin, Sterling Shepard hurt. You're trying to figure out who can that other receiver be. How about McMillan? 7 touchdowns in the final 5 games. The only guy with more touchdowns than that in a 5-game span as a receiver is Randy Moss in 1998 as a rookie. That's elite company again to be in. And why do I get the feeling that McMillan's not going to be ready for a big play or two in this Commanders game? Bear in mind, as you know, that huge 4th down play against the Saints late in the game, the throw to McMillan, that's his play. That is him all the way. And they had that much belief in him to be able to get open and for Mayfield to deliver the dime on that one. And then later the dime on the touchdown in the corner of the end zone. But that shows you the confidence they have in Jalen McMillan to run that play for him on 4th and 8 in the clutch in a must-win game. Are you kidding me?
4th and 8. The stones to call that play from Liam Cohen, the execution of the throw from Baker Mayfield, and the catch from Jalen McMillan. I mean, you want to talk about this synchronicity, symbiosis of this entire offense, this team. I mean, that play kind of encapsulates the whole thing. Let's talk about this matchup with the Commanders. We know it starts and ends with Jaden Daniels, a fantastic rookie. What do you think is going to be the key to the outcome of this game? I've said that I think Jaden Daniels, you can't be that good as a rookie unless you have that snap and clear mentality. If you make a mistake, you just got to go back out there. I'm looking for that one play because of the margins, right? The margins are so fine in the postseason, and maybe if he tries to do a little bit too much, whether it's running and he fumbles or he tries to fit in one of those throws in a tight area and it gets picked off, what do you see as far as the key in the difference of this contest Sunday night?
I think the ability to contain him from getting around the left or the right end, containment. And they have had problems with that really for years for Todd Bowles' outside rushers. That's going to be critical because you'd much rather have him try to earn it weaving through the middle of the pocket in the middle of the defense as opposed to around on the end where it becomes 20, 30, 40 yards or worse, which is what he can do. So contain him around the end. Does he play tight in a playoff game? I know he won a Heisman Trophy at LSU, but this is the NFL. They're on the road. A bonkers crowd, we believe, will be roaring in that game. And let's see if you get him to make a mistake or two, especially early in the game, to give you some momentum. So I think probably the 2 biggest keys are containing him around the end, and can you rattle him with a play or two, a big hit, a pick, something to rattle him, because again, he's not done this before. This is advantage Buccaneers veteran players, advantage Baker Mayfield, and playing at home that you've done that before. And I know Dan Quinn does have playoff experience in Atlanta, including being with them with the Super Bowl, but he doesn't have Matt Ryan in this instance. He's got a rookie in this instance, and that's got to be worth something for the Buccaneers Sunday night.
Yeah, he doesn't have MVP Matt Ryan. What a year that year for Atlanta.
Yeah.
Incredible season that they had with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and the crew. Shaq Barrett, to be able to walk into that locker room, TJ, and to see him there, you could have wiped a smile off that guy's face if you tried. Like, it's so cool. You want to talk about feel good stories. I mean, that's what it's about, right? I mean, you know this as well as anybody. It's about the relationships. It's about the memories, like you said with Rondé and Mike Evans. But I mean, Shaq just looks at peace, and I'm so glad he's back. But as far as him being on the field, I mean, what can we expect from Shaq Barrett on Sunday night?
Great unknown, and he was able to be out there for a few plays. And look, by his own admission, he is just trying to get into football shape to maybe be able to play. I'm saying this, I don't have this on any authority, to be like a 20-play player maybe on Sunday night to get back out there. And again, you've illuminated this. It's been talked about so much in this area. His wife, they have gone through a horrible tragedy, and the grieving process of all of it is not something that's finite. It's not something that, hey, okay, they got through the end of 2023 and early 2024, so now all is better. Again, it's been an awful thing for them to overcome. He was conflicted, obviously, about leaving this area to go play for the Dolphins, and then just eventually decided, I can't go do this. Mentally, as much as anything, I can't go do this. And then the more that the season wore on, I believe he missed it. The veteran players will always tell you, Jay, and you know this, and it's common sense for the audience, it isn't playing the games that's the difficult part later in your career. It's all the preparation to be able to play the games, the training camp, the preseason, how long the year is. So, again, you're getting him fresh at the end of this year. I know he has a hope to maybe play next year. I don't know what that reality is. But why do I get the feeling that that guy with more Super Bowl experience, it's a great point by you, ends up maybe making a play in this game on Sunday night to help the Bucs?
Remember last year, and I know it wasn't the year that he had a couple of years ago when he had damn near 20 sacks, but if you remember, one of the shining moments that he had last year was Justin Fields, Chicago, early on in the season. Shaq comes away with this weird looking play, and he gets kind of like a
He stuck the paw up in the air and stabbed that ball at about the 5. And then he was trying to get in, and he had his teammates pushing him in. It was almost metaphorical and almost like Hollywood that they were helping him off the field emotionally with what happened with the drowning of his daughter, and they were physically pushing him in the end zone. I mean, that's a Hollywood moment that happened last year. And it's one of the reasons why this guy has not left this community the entire calendar year. They didn't leave the community, and he wants to be part of this one more time. Let's see what happens.
All right. Give me kind of an unsung hero or one thing that you're going to be keeping a keen eye on Sunday night as the Buccaneers take on the Commanders.
You want to see somebody maybe make a big play in this game that we're not necessarily talking about? How about Payne Durham at tight end? I'm just throwing that out there. Cade Otton, again, is questionable. How much can he play? Maybe Payne Durham is that guy that ends up making a play. Defensive side of the ball, why do I get the feeling that a Kalijah Kancey or a Vita Vea might have a big game and a huge play in this game up the middle? They have been so good as a tandem in the middle of the defense. I don't know how many people realize this. For all the maligning of Todd Bowles' defense, when you look at the numbers in terms of sacks, they're sixth in the NFL in sacks as a defense. When you look at against the run, they're fourth. Now, most people would have figured good run defense, fourth in the NFL against the run. A lot of that is Kancey and Vea. Does one of them make a play on Sunday night against the Commanders? All I know is I can't wait. I cannot. I mean, it's only Thursday while we're doing this live. I am ready to go for Sunday night. This is what it's all about, kids, to be in the playoffs.
Sunday,
we love this.
Sunday at 1 p.m. We're going to be like looking around like what's going on here? The
only saving grace is this is not Monday night. As you know, the last 2 years it was Monday night, and it was painful to have to watch all of Sunday and go, we're not playing until tomorrow night. I mean, I understand why the NFL is doing it. Television rules the world. That's why they have a Monday night playoff game. But it's really almost unfair to those other two teams to have to wait that long when you're seeing everybody else play before you. And it's truly a disadvantage when you're coming back to play the next weekend on one less day of rest. But I understand why they're doing it. But at least this is Sunday night. And again, Buck fans, savor this. Get out there. Be loud. This is why they worked so hard down the stretch of the season to make the playoffs, win the division, and have a home playoff game, was to take advantage of Sunday night.
All right, real quick. Give me a boxing match to keep an eye on over the next couple months.
Oh, my goodness. There's a couple of them. I'm a big boxing guy. I got the boxing podcast that's out there, the Big Fight Weekend podcast. It's probably this February 22nd card. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia. It's got a world heavyweight title fight. These aren't all American fighters. Got a heavyweight title fight with the Brit Daniel Dubois. He's the guy that knocked out Anthony Joshua. And then it's got the light heavyweight title rematch with the two Russians, Beterbiev and Bivol. There's like 4 other title fights literally on the pay-per-view. There's 5 or 6 world title fights February 22nd. So long after the NFL playoffs, long after the Super Bowl, we got a little boxing to get to in February, but I always appreciate you working in a shout out here or there on however we can do this. And let me say this publicly to the peeps, support what this guy is doing. The quality of what's going on here with the guests and what you're seeing every day and how it's being produced and delivered. Support this by hitting the like button, by sharing it out on social media when you see it. If he's got sponsors, patronize him. Is it a sponsor that got you the shoes? Hold up the blue suede shoes again. Is that a sponsor? If he says get a discount, if he says get a discount on these shoes, go buy it from whoever has the discount and help this man out with the blue suede shoes. Because I love that.
You're the man.
I love that, brother. Listen, continue to be well. You have me back anytime you want. If you need me after, notice what I'm about to say, after a win over the Commanders for the divisional round, let's do it. I look forward to being back with you.
Thanks, buddy. And yeah, the fight I'm looking for, February 22nd, Shakur Stevenson, Floyd Schofield.
Yes. 2 Americans.
WBC lightweight title. That's the second fight on the whole card.
Yeah, that's a fantastic pay-per-view. And you're right. I'd forgotten about Shakur, and Schofield is a great young up-and-coming fighter, lightweight world title fight. So again, all of that's in February. We got time to promote that. Keep knocking them dead with the Bolts,
Thank you,
with the Bulls. With everything going on here with the Buccaneers this weekend, I'm checking you out. I'm checking out the interviews. I'm checking out the show, and the public needs to do the same thing with you.
Appreciate it. TJ Rives, Bucs sideline guy. Check him out on all social media platforms as well. TJ, appreciate it, brother. I'll see you on Sunday night. Go Bucs.
Yes, sir.